I'm Kara. I'm 32 years old, juggling work and raising my daughter Summer, who just turned 5 this year. Summer absolutely loves playing with dolls. My husband Walter adores her. On his days off, he takes her out secretly, letting her enjoy ice cream and pudding, which she often tells me about as her little secret. I relish the ordinary and peaceful days we have, except for one thing. Every year during the long vacations, we end up visiting my in-laws, which becomes quite a headache for me. I'm treated like a housekeeper, responsible for meal preparations every day. When I handed over a box of cookies as a gift, my mother-in-law blatantly wrinkled her face. "Oh my, I really don't like these cookies." I couldn't believe it. There was no way she could dislike them. My husband had told me that these were her favorites. I swallowed my frustration and promptly withdrew the cookie box. "I'm sorry, then I will take them back." "Oh, never mind. I guess I will accept them." She snatched the withdrawn box from me and eagerly tore it open, examining the cookies carefully. Later, when I tried to prepare soup, she commented, "We don't put meat in our soups here." And with that, she poured the soup I had made down the sink. She continuously found faults with everything I did, and eventually, my plate consisted only of meat or fish scraps and bones. She was like a character out of a soap opera, a classic wicked mother-in-law. My husband was usually occupied with gardening and yard work while I was in the kitchen, so he didn't notice her bullying me directly. Of course, he would intervene if he noticed something strange, but my mother-in-law always played it off as mere carelessness, pretending innocence. "Oh my, how forgetful of me!" That was her typical response. My husband always sighs and swaps my plate with his when my mother-in-law behaves this way. But this only seems to irk her more. I often think, why not just stop the harassment? But maybe, for my mother-in-law, this is her source of entertainment. I can endure the taunts directed at me. But what's difficult is when she involves my daughter. During this family gathering, my husband's younger sister and her husband visit along with their 7-year-old son Noah. My mother-in-law dotes on Ingrid, my sister-in-law, to an extreme extent. She never lets her enter the kitchen, and if I ever ask Ingrid for help, "You, as a daughter-in-law, shouldn't use my daughter for your chores." Like mother, like daughter, Ingrid also doesn't lift a finger and spends her time idly during her stay at my in-laws. My mother-in-law's doting extends to Ingrid's sons as well. "Noah, here's the video game you wanted." "That's great, Noah. Make sure to thank Grandma." "Thank you." My mother-in-law and Ingrid both smiled contentedly as they handed Noah the game without even looking at him. Then, my mother-in-law carelessly tossed a small item to my daughter, Summer. "Here, Summer, this is for you." What she tossed was a small notepad with a cat illustration on the cover. "Wow, this is so cute. Thank you, Grandma." Summer's pure smile made my mother-in-law's mouth twitch involuntarily. "See? It's the thought that counts more than the price." Ingrid burst into laughter upon hearing this, which irked me. But my husband was the first to speak up. "Mom, stop favoring your grandchildren. It's not right." "It's a differentiation, you know. It's natural to treat a kindergarten child differently from an elementary school student. There is only a 2-year age gap." As the adults argued, our daughter looked on anxiously. Noah also seemed uncomfortable. It was so immature to involve the children in our conflicts. Ingrid was laughing hysterically, observing the quarreling adults. Just then, my father-in-law, who had been quietly sitting aside, chimed in.
What's the matter? Did she do something to upset Walter again?
Grandpa!
Summer, Noah, want to go for shaved ice with Grandpa? Kira, you should come too. The mango shaved ice over there is outstanding.
Sure. I love you, Grandpa. Summer's grandfather affectionately patted her head, and Noah too seemed relieved as he held his hand. This open favoritism between my sister-in-law's son and my daughter was increasingly bothersome. I could tolerate it for myself, but I knew that returning to my in-laws' place was not good for Summer's upbringing. My husband understood this too, so we had only been visiting them a minimum of twice a year for the past few years. However, the situation continued to worsen. My husband, me, and our daughter Summer all had our daily routines, work for us, and preschool for Summer. I usually finished work first, so I was responsible for picking up Summer. But one day, Summer started insisting that she wanted her dad to pick her up, throwing tantrum about it. But that wasn't all. When we got home, I want to eat dinner with Daddy. I want to take a bath with Daddy. I want to sleep with Daddy. These were her daily demands. Everything has to be with Daddy, and she cries if it's not. Even though I try to convince her, it's mostly me taking care of her until my husband gets home from work. But there are days when she insists on Daddy so much that she cries uncontrollably until he comes back. I'm already tired from work, and I want her to sleep early for her daycare the next day, so it gets frustrating. At first, my husband was delighted by how much she loved him, but lately, with her constant demands for him, he's been exhausted. Something was off. We both realized this was unusual, so we decided to ask Summer. Summer, why do you want Daddy so much? Summer looked at me with a serious expression and tightly grasped her skirt. Because Daddy is going away.
Home?
Suddenly, Summer shouted at us. Because Daddy is not Summer's real daddy. That's why she's going away. Sweetheart, what are you talking about? What in the world is my daughter saying? My husband tried to talk to her gently.
Daddy is your real daddy.
No, you're not, because I don't look like Daddy at all. We exchanged glances. It's true that Summer looks exactly like me, to the point where people comment that she got none of her father's genes. Summer, you might look like Mommy, but you're both Mommy's and Daddy's little one. No, he's not my daddy. He's not. I try to calm her down, but my daughter stubbornly shakes her head. And then she shouts something unbelievable. Grandma said I don't look like Daddy because Mommy cheated, and Summer's real daddy is someone else.
What?
Our simultaneous reactions reflected our shock.
Mom? How could she?
Yeah, Walter, this is just too much. I desperately suppressed the urge to storm out and kick down the door at my in-laws. My husband's tempers were throbbing with anger, but we needed to talk to our daughter calmly.
Summer, you're definitely Daddy's little one. And Mommy would never do something that would make you and Daddy sad. Right, Kara?
My husband looked directly into my eyes. With nothing to hide, I returned his gaze squarely. Of course, Daddy can only be your daddy. Really? As my husband and I nodded emphatically, the tension visibly drained from Summer's body. I pulled her close to me. I'm sorry, Summer. I apologize for not realizing her anxiety earlier. You are definitely Mommy and Daddy's little one. You will always be with us, Summer. My reassurance made Summer's contorted face relax, and she burst into tears, trembling in my arms. That night, My husband and I slept holding her hands. I had been naive. I failed to see through my mother-in-law's foolishness when she could instill such malicious lies in her young granddaughter. I'm sorry, Summer. Mommy will fight for you. With her left hand, my daughter held on to me while my husband lying beside her glared with anger in his eyes. We would never forgive my mother-in-law. Absolutely never. During the weekend, we left Summer with my mother and confronted my in-laws. Ingrid, who happened to be visiting, sat beside my mother-in-law, smirking while eating ice cream. What? Isn't this just Summer's misunderstanding? My mother-in-law played innocent, but when we pressured her, she quickly changed her tune. So what? She doesn't look like my son because it's true. Kara got pregnant with another man's child, didn't she? You hit her nerve, and now you're lashing out. Walter, wake up and move on. Find yourself a nice, young, and cute wife. Yeah, Walter has terrible taste in women, doesn't he? Well, I already produced an heir, so it's okay if Summer isn't around. Maybe leave your cheating wife and start over?
You guys, I can't believe this.
My husband's temper throbbed as he reacted to my mother-in-law and Ingrid's attitudes. I was furious, but at the same time, I was utterly astounded. To think that my daughter looked different from her son and was accused of infidelity so abruptly. Could it be? Suddenly, an idea struck me, and I voiced it. Could it be because you had a similar experience? What? My mother-in-law let out a strangled gasp, her face noticeably paling. I never thought it could be true, but did I hit a nerve? We wouldn't casually accuse someone of having an affair just because their child doesn't resemble them. But if you have had a similar experience, it all makes sense now.
Mom? No way.
My husband looked at my mother-in-law in disbelief. Even Ingrid, who was usually composed, seemed shocked as she let ice cream drip from her trembling hand while gazing at my mother-in-law. No, it's not like that.
If it's not like that, why are you so agitated? Who is my real father?
Walter, no! You're your father's son. So, Ingrid is a child from an affair, right? In that moment, my mother-in-law covered her mouth in shock. Seeing her reaction, even Ingrid widened her eyes and gasped, Mom? No! Ingrid is also my husband's. My mother-in-law attempted to regain her composure with quivering lips, but her effort was interrupted by a low monotone voice.
I suspected as much.
As we looked towards the source of the voice, my father-in-law had appeared. My mother-in-law openly showed signs of distress. No, I didn't have an affair.
Stop it. This is embarrassing.
My father-in-law sighed deeply.
I had a hunch. For several years after Walter was born, we couldn't have children. Or rather, we didn't engage in activities that could result in children. So when you suddenly pushed for a child and then became pregnant almost immediately, it felt strange. Still, when our daughter was born, she was adorable. I thought that if I endured it and pretended not to notice, I could protect my family and my children. But it seems I was wrong all along.
That's not. Overwhelmed by shock, my mother-in-law stumbled and fell to her knees.
Kara, I'm sorry for the discomfort my wife and daughter have caused you. Today marks the end of such discomfort.
Thank you.
These two are no longer part of our family.
Dad! My mother-in-law and Ingrid both let out anguished cries. My mother-in-law clung desperately to my father-in-law's arm. It's really not true. Ingrid is undoubtedly your child. You believe Kara more than the woman who's been with you for over 30 years?
Mom, stop it. This is embarrassing.
My husband, frustrated and disgusted, stared back at his mother, who was glaring at him like a demon. In the midst of this, my father-in-law uttered calmly,
That's right.
Right, honey? You believe me? Right?
If it turns out Ingrid is not my child, it means you've deceived me for almost 30 years.
My father-in-law pushed away my distraught mother-in-law without mercy, leaving her in despair.
We will have a DNA test, and if it proves Ingrid is my child, I will believe you. If not, then you can leave.
My mother-in-law, with a pale face, slumped to the floor. Beside her, Ingrid, dazed and shocked, stood amidst the melted ice cream puddle. Unlike my situation, my mother-in-law's infidelity seemed indisputable. The next day, my husband obtained a DNA testing kit and reluctantly collected samples from my mother-in-law and the stunned Ingrid. Through the power of science, it was confirmed that my husband and my father-in-law were indeed biologically related, while Ingrid's connection was disproven. With a solemn expression, my father-in-law expelled my mother-in-law from the house and filed for divorce. In order to compensate for her years of deceit and infidelity, my father-in-law took most of the property when he left, leaving her with almost nothing. Homeless and penniless, my mother-in-law attempted to move in with Ingrid. Unexpectedly, Ingrid's husband also demanded a DNA test for their son Noah. It turned out that Ingrid had also been unfaithful. Her husband had suspected it for a while, but refrained from investigating, concerned about the impact it might have on little Noah. However, witnessing the dramatic divorce between his parents-in-law had changed his mind. Fortunately, the DNA test confirmed that Noah was indeed his biological son. However, Ingrid's infidelity remained a fact, leading to their own divorce. Due to the severity of her actions and Noah's strong desire, custody was awarded to her husband. My mother-in-law and Ingrid ended up living together in a small apartment, struggling with their reduced circumstances. Legally, Ingrid was still considered my father-in-law's child. However, my father-in-law had a plan. To reduce Ingrid's inheritance, he adopted me and my daughter Summer. By increasing the number of children and ensuring a well-drafted will, he aimed to minimize what would ultimately go to Ingrid. Ingrid, who lost her beloved son and had been living a luxurious life supported by her husband's income, couldn't bear this change. She incessantly blamed her mother for her misfortunes and tried to impose herself on our family. Naturally, my husband and I had no intention of accepting my mother-in-law. My husband looked down at his mother with disgust and told her to be ashamed of herself. At that moment, Summer, hearing the commotion at the front door, peeked out curiously. When my mother-in-law saw Summer, her face suddenly brightened. "Summer, honey, please ask Mommy and Daddy to help your grandma. Everyone has been mean to Grandma, you see." After all she had put Summer through, what audacity to make such a request. I turned to hide Summer behind me, ready to give her a piece of my mind. But in an unexpected turn, Summer spoke up. "No." "Huh?" Summer firmly rejected her grandmother, who stared back in disbelief. Summer looked at her grandmother with eyes that I had never seen her use on anyone, not even her parents. "Grandma tried to take Daddy away from me, so no. It's a no-no." My mother-in-law turned pale. Could she have forgotten the evil deed she had committed? She truly was beyond redemption. I wouldn't do such things anymore. Look, Summer, I will buy you lots of your favorite toys and sweets. I don't need them. Grandma is a liar. To prevent any further trauma, I tried to carry Summer back to the room. However, my stubborn mother-in-law continued to insist on stopping us. If you continue this, I will call the police. Is that clear? My mother-in-law, humiliated and defeated, let out a pitiful cry and collapsed. Without mercy, my husband firmly took her away. And so, my mother-in-law ended up with a miserable retirement due to her greed. From then on, we often invited my father-in-law to our home. He now seems more lively than he did back when he lived with his ex-wife. With my mother-in-law and Ingrid gone, he enjoys a stress-free environment, and each visit feels like a celebration.
Hey, Kara, I brought some watermelon.
Wow, that looks delish. Thank you.
Where's Summer?
Seeing my father-in-law eagerly looking forward to seeing his beloved granddaughter, I put my finger to my lips and silently led him through the hallway. I opened the living room door, revealing my husband and daughter, both fast asleep in the same position after a tiring day of play. My father-in-law quietly chuckled.
They look so much alike.
Though their faces might not resemble each other, there was no doubt that Summer and my husband were parent and child. In that moment, I couldn't help but feel that I had the most precious family in the world right there with me.